Something fundamental has shifted in the architecture of modern warfare, and this time, it's not just about the weapons that strike, it's about the systems that deny. For decades, NATO air doctrine has been built on a single, unwavering pillar, the assumption of air superiority. Western planners relied on the belief that through a combination of stealth, electronic warfare, and sheer technological complexity, they could dismantle any integrated air defense system from the outside in. But that assumption is now being tested in ways that were unthinkable just 5 years ago. While much of the global media focuses on Russia's offensive capabilities, the hypersonic Kinzhal, the maneuvering Iskander-M, the real strategic shift is happening in the armor. The S-300V4 is not just an upgrade to a Cold War relic, it's a specialized mobile interceptor designed to do what traditional air defenses cannot: track and neutralize high-value aerial targets at distances that collapse the concept of strategic depth. This is the system that's forcing NATO to rewrite its approach to air operations. This is the story of the S-300V4. To understand why NATO is studying the S-300V4 with such intensity, you have to look past the surface specifications. Within Russian military doctrine, air defense is not a static wall, it's a layered, mobile network where every piece has a specific role. The S-300V4 is the heavyweight of the high-altitude, long-range tier, designed to operate alongside advancing ground forces in contested environments. Unlike the more widely known S-400, which is a general-purpose system optimized for static defense of critical infrastructure, the S-300V4 is built for the battlefield. The V stands for Voiskovia, meaning it's designed specifically for the ground forces. It's tracked, highly mobile, and capable of crossing off-road terrain to keep pace with armored columns. It can fire and relocate with a speed that makes preemptive targeting extremely difficult, a capability that NATO intelligence has been monitoring closely since operations in Ukraine intensified. The S-300V4's primary interceptor is a long-range missile that reportedly reaches speeds of Mach 7.5 and can engage targets at ranges of up to 400 kilometers. But range is only one part of the equation. The system features a dual missile capability that gives it unique flexibility. The first is a smaller, high-speed interceptor designed for engaging fast-moving aircraft and cruise missiles. The second is a much larger missile specifically engineered to intercept tactical ballistic missiles and what military planners call high-value airborne assets, or HVAAs. These include AWACS platforms that coordinate strike packages and provide situational awareness, aerial refueling tankers, and reconnaissance aircraft. This is where the strategic implications become clear. By targeting the command and control backbone of NATO air operations, the AWACS platforms that coordinate strike packages and provide situational awareness, the S-300V4 doesn't just shoot down individual jets, it disrupts the coordination of entire mission profiles before they even reach the engagement zone. NATO doctrine relies heavily on networked operations, and when the network loses its eyes and ears, the entire operational tempo slows down. The most significant aspect of this development is that Russia is no longer testing these systems in controlled conditions. The conflict in Ukraine has become an operational laboratory where every launch refines doctrine and every successful engagement teaches something new. Russian air defense operators are learning how to integrate the S-300V4 into a system-level warfare model, where high-altitude threats are managed by long-range interceptors, while shorter-range systems handle low-flying drones and close-in threats. This integration is critical because it addresses the traditional weaknesses of air defense networks. In the past, NATO relied on the geometry problem of air defense, the idea that if you fly low enough or fast enough, you can bypass radar coverage. But the S-300V4, when paired with updated guidance systems and multispectral sensors, makes traditional countermeasures like terrain masking and simple electronic jamming far less effective. The system is designed to operate in dense electronic warfare environments, and its mobility allows it to avoid being pinned down by anti-radiation missiles that target stationary emitters. The operational ambiguity created by the S-300V4 is itself a force multiplier. When a system can engage an aircraft 400 kilometers away while operating deep inside protected airspace, it forces NATO planners to ask uncomfortable questions about survivability. If a tanker aircraft or an AWACS is no longer safe 300 kilometers behind the front line, the entire logic of aerial logistics and mission planning begins to shift. Aircraft have to carry more fuel, reducing payload. Strike packages have to compress into tighter formations, increasing vulnerability. Mission planners have to account for longer ingress and egress times, which reduces sortie rates. A major theme across Russia's strategic upgrades, from the Iskander-M to the modernization of the Tu-160 bomber fleet, is the economics of the engagement. In a prolonged conflict, efficiency matters. NATO's current response to high-end threats involves accelerated procurement of expensive interceptor systems like the Arrow 3 and additional Patriot PAC-3 batteries. However, these interceptor stockpiles do not match the tempo of a multi-layered threat environment. A single Patriot interceptor costs millions of dollars per shot. The S-300V4 shifts this calculus. By using specialized missiles to target high-value assets, Russia can trade relatively affordable interceptors for the destruction of platforms worth hundreds of millions of dollars. An AWACS platform costs upward of $200 million to build and train crews for. A stealth fighter costs even more. The loss of even one or two of these platforms in a contested environment creates a cascade effect that impacts mission planning for weeks. While Western programs remain largely confined to testing phases and limited prototypes, Russia is normalizing and integrating these systems for routine operational use. This signals a high level of confidence in the supply chain and the industrial base behind the weapon. While NATO is planning for future threats, Russia is acting in the present, exploiting the gap between interceptor concepts and actual deployment timelines. The introduction of the S-300V4 into the theater represents a fundamental shift because it denies air superiority rather than trying to achieve it through traditional air-to-air combat. Russian doctrine is built around denying access and forcing opponents to recalculate risk at every stage of mission planning. If NATO aircraft cannot operate freely within 400 kilometers of an S-300V4 battery, the reaction time for Western forces collapses. Stealth aircraft like the F-35 are forced to operate in specific speed bands and altitude ceilings where they're increasingly detectable by modernized radar systems. This creates a saturation problem in reverse. If a NATO strike package is detected and engaged from standoff ranges, the decision cycle for the pilots is compressed until response becomes nearly impossible. They're forced into reactive chaos rather than coordinated response. The S-300V4 is the defensive anchor that allows offensive assets like the Iskander-M and the Kinzhal to operate with greater freedom. It creates a protective bubble where Russian logistics and command centers can function while simultaneously holding targets at risk across vast distances through its offensive counterparts. This layered approach, defense enabling offense, is the core of Russian operational doctrine, and the S-300V4 is a key part of that architecture. The message being sent from the battlefields of Ukraine is being heard far beyond its borders. Western militaries are recalibrating early warning systems and fast-tracking new interceptor programs, but these reactions tell us that the threat is being taken seriously. NATO air exercises in Europe have shifted focus towards operating in contested environments, and procurement timelines for advanced air defense suppression systems have been accelerated. We are entering a future where distance no longer provides the same level of protection that it once did, and dominance is measured in minutes rather than hours. The S-300V4 is a testament to the Russian shift away from mass formations towards a model built on speed, precision, and sustained pressure. In this new reality, power no longer belongs to those with the biggest armies. It belongs to those who control time. And as we have seen, in the shadow of the S-300V4, time is moving very fast. If you want daily breakdowns of the weapons that actually decide wars, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell right now. New drop every single day.